Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us today for this webinar, Leveraging Organizational Knowledge. My name is Sasha Budkovich. I'm the Communications Manager here at Corra. We're a digital commerce agency creating unified commerce experiences for fashion, lifestyle, and beauty brands. And one really important concern for these brands and merchants of all kinds is optimization. So to cover some of those key topics within optimization, we created this 4-part webinar series. Today is part 3 of our series presented by Van Schlichting, Corra's SEO and optimization practice lead. Van's background is on the client side of e-commerce, where he spent 15 years working in a wide range of industries from electronics to sporting goods and fashion, and he has been responsible for launching extensive testing programs on platforms such as Adobe Target and Monetate. So with that, I'm going to pass this over to Van to get things started.
Thank you, Sasha. So today I wanted to talk all about original ideas. Original ideas are important for differentiating your experience in your testing program and just in general. And during creative sessions where we're coming up with test ideas, I generally invite people from various departments within the company. Today I'm going to talk about using the knowledge of those people within your organization to come up with those ideas and give you some pointers on where you can start looking and how you can get that process started. So what is organizational knowledge? Well, there are many definitions, but in this setting, this is the one that makes the most sense to me. Organizational knowledge is the knowledge gained through years of interacting with the same customer and industry. No matter how much data we look at or experience we have in e-commerce, there's a special kind of understanding that only comes from a long history of working with the customer, working with a specific product, and so that's really kind of the key to creative and new ideas, specifically in your space, is kind of understanding that you have this knowledge within your organization and you need to use it in the best way possible, and you need to engage those people. The other thing that we need to understand is working in e-commerce changes the way we look at a digital experience. We live in a world of end caps, category pages, carts, landing pages, all these things, and they can actually leave us blind to some opportunities. The fact is, we don't just look at a website the same way a customer does or any other kind of visitor does, really. We're very unique, and while we're able to find all the common opportunities on a site at first glance, doing truly original things requires a fresh perspective and a deep knowledge of your customer, which is exactly what some of these groups within your company may have. This is where creative sessions to generate those test ideas become important. So the most important step to having original ideas in testing is to help your group understand the digital world. So these folks, since they've worked within the organization, they probably never worked on websites. Probably, these days they've certainly shopped on them. I engage with these folks in a number of ways, and we talk about as we talk about specific campaigns or areas of the site. First, I talk about the needs of the customer. What do their needs look like? What are they thinking of when they go to purchase? Next step is to explain how customers move through the site. This can include general explanation of path, or you can talk about specific paths that you're trying to optimize. But the idea is to give those in your creative session an idea of what you know about how the customer behaves. At each page, it's important to explain what makes a customer click on an invite. I usually talk about banners and other call to actions associated with shopping, not necessarily purchasing, and generally present more questions than answers. So I kind of give them an answer of what makes people click, and then I ask them, what would make you click here? And then lastly, I talk about where a customer may want to end up. What is the most efficient way to serve their needs? Where do we want to take them to? What does that experience look like? So these are some tips that you can use to talk to some of these groups. So then the question becomes, who are these folks within your organization? Great ideas can come from anywhere, but there's a few groups in my experience that have a unique perspective. First one is merchandising, preferably non-digital merchandisers and product developers. And these are folks that work with the product every day. They know it inside and out. The second is customer service. Talking to the customer every day gives a person a unique insight that all the graphs and marketing won't help you with. And then the last is public relations. These individuals look at things in terms of message and communicating effectively, which is very important for a web experience. So the first area I mentioned is merchandising. And they really think about product relationships and capabilities. Some of the best personalization campaigns have come from ideas generated from the merchandising teams. Merchandisers have a clear understanding of how the products meet specific interests and applications. They also hopefully know how to kit products together in new ways to serve varied purposes. Some relationships that you may not already have set up on your website. In terms of knowing the upsell, the folks in product always know which is the best option and how to compare them, good, better, best. And lastly, the product folks tend to have a knowledge level that only your most engaged customers might. I call this geek knowledge. If the fanboys and fangirls are a significant segment for you, then this can be very valuable because your product folks really think and act like them, and they look at things in terms of features. An example is we had a creative session where we had a bunch of merchandisers talking about cross-collection combination sales, like basically putting together different outfits from different collections that weren't necessarily designed to be together. And through a couple sessions, we came up with an entirely new category page experience that allowed you kind of to mix and match those items. So that's an example of kind of the creative ideas that can come out of that. The next area is customer service. I once had someone tell me that any insights from customer service aren't usable because they don't have really a big data view. And while many perspectives within CS are anecdotal, solutions to anecdotal problems are often very valid and should be tested. CS agents also have a clear understanding of what hurdles a customer has to jump through or over in order to transact. They've heard this from them firsthand. They're also great at knowing when to give the right information at the right time to make a sale or keep the customer happy. They know when the customer doesn't have that information at their hands. It's interesting to note that CS asks what the customer asks, and therefore are a great resource for getting general impressions without a survey. So much of the same feedback that you end up getting from doing UX surveys and focus groups and things like that, you can get from within your organization from your customer service folks. And then lastly, the CS agents hear from upset customers all the time. They know where we missed and they know how to fix it. So, so again, customer service is really a great tool, and I've had some really awesome ideas. They're not always executable online, but they're excellent ideas that often turn into great tests. The last group I wanted to talk about is public relations. I like to think of PR as kind of the unidirectional form of marketing, where the company is sending the message and not necessarily receiving them. This is actually very similar to a website. Although there's a certain level of interaction, it's all mostly information going to the visitor and not from. And this is why PR is so well positioned to kind of think of things this way. PR folks are great at knowing what is on brand and on message. So obviously marketing focuses on that as well. But PR knows how to create confidence in that message. And sometimes they know the right words to put there. An example, during one creative session, the PR team started firing off about a dozen new messages to display on a very involved landing page. This landing page included multiple options, multiple paths out of it. The result was we tested all of these messages we had collected in our creative session, and the message that the PR team came up with tested at 20% more clicks than anyone in marketing, any of the suggestions that came from marketing. So that's just an idea of the power of how they know how to create a very concise, direct message. PR also has a unique view of perception and the frame of mind of the visitor. This leads them to think of things in terms of how it may be perceived rather than how we want it perceived. And then thirdly, PR is great at finding issues with current campaigns. So show them what you're currently doing, show them your current tests, and oftentimes some of their suggestions will make things much more elegant, much more direct than they were originally laid out. So the most important, the most important step to an original test idea is to get others into the room who are outside of e-commerce. I hope some of my suggestions help you to build something truly unique. If you have any questions, please feel free to send them to hello@corra.com. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks Van, and thanks everyone for joining us. Part 4, the last part of the series, is going to be next week. We hope you'll join us then. Thanks.